you ever dealt with feelings of persistent anxiety? It can cause our mind to race, fill our thoughts with worries, and even affect our body. Maybe that knot in your gut, that feeling of dread, or sweaty palms, or nervous energy pulsing through your body. That anxiety can keep us distracted mentally and drained physically. And sometimes people try to address that anxiety with ways that are not helpful. One of those ways is just simply distraction. If I can stop thinking about it, then I won't have to feel this way. So people distract themselves by pulling out their phone, watching a movie, eating, sometimes unhelpful, distracting ways that can actually cause their own problems like drugs and alcohol. But distracting is never really a long-term solution because the anxiety still tries to get our attention and builds if we ignore it. Or sometimes people will try to stop anxiety by just shutting it down, telling it to shut up, telling it to go away. But that also is not a long-term solution, and here's why. Anxiety, like all of our emotions, is trying to tell us something important. Imagine you have a bunch of intel officers that work for you and you've sent them out to report back on what they see in every direction. That's what our emotions do. They give us important intel. And so anxiety is telling us, hey, there's a potential danger or there's a potential concern in the future. Anxiety is actually like a generalized low-grade form of fear. Let's use this example. Imagine you're driving down the highway and all of a sudden a semi swerves into your lane and it's coming at you head on and you're about to have a collision. You're filled with fear, you're adrenalized, you slam on the brakes or you move out of the way so you can save your life and all the passengers in the vehicle with you. That acute sense of fear actually helps save your life. It was an unpleasant emotion, but it had a productive result. Now, imagine a few days later, you get into your car and every time you drive from then on for days, weeks, months, you feel this general anxiety about driving. There's no semi coming at you anymore, but you're nervous around every turn. Your body is physically heart beating fast and racing and unsettled. Your mind is now taken that specific fear and generalized it toward all the possible harmful outcomes that could happen while you're on the road. Our brain is a really good tool to help us identify threats and avoid them. So when we experience something traumatic or fearful or painful, we often then become anxious to try to avoid any other possible scenario like that in the future. So while it's not helpful to be an anxious driver, your body and brain are actually trying to warn you of that same thing you experienced not too long ago. So how do we deal with anxiety without just trying to distract or shut it up, so that we can get that information and make it something useful? Here are 3 steps that will be really good to build in the relationship with those feelings of anxiety. The first one is this. Ask it the question, what are you concerned about? You're anxious about something, you're bringing me this intel, what are you concerned about? That takes it from the subconscious to the conscious. Well, I'm concerned about this possible bad outcome. The second question is, what can I do about it? What can I do about it? Well, I can drive safe, I can stay off my phone, I can be alert, and we can take action. The antidote to anxiety is action. Once we identify the concern, we take preparatory action, we do the best we can to keep the situation in a safe place. Then the third step is trust. There are some things within our control that we can take action on to alleviate the anxiety, but there are lots of things in life that we cannot control. We can't manage the uncertainty of the future. And so in that scenario, we just have to trust, relax, and move on instead of stewing in anxiety. Let me share a personal example with all 3 of these steps. A number of years ago, when my kids were really young, I had this recurring unsettledness that if I died young, they would not be well provided for. It nagged me in the back of my mind every so often. And so finally, I just brought it to the center and said, okay, anxiety, what are you concerned about here? And the concern was, well, if I died young, if something happened and there was an accident, would my family be provided for? So then I asked the question, well, what can I do about it? And there were some obvious answers. Well, live a safe life, try to be healthy. I was already doing all those things. But the other action step was you need more life insurance. And so I did a little bit of research and realized, man, my policy is way too low. So I bumped it up to a really strong amount that I was comfortable with. And I knew, if something happened to me, my family would be really well taken care of. And the day that I increased that life insurance policy, 95% of the anxiety went away. I had taken the action that I could do and prepared. That's what the anxiety was trying to tell me. Hey, you haven't done this step. In case this bad thing happens, they're not ready for that. Now, there was still that 5% where some recurring anxiety happened of, hey, what if you died? What would happen to your family? But that's the point where I just had to trust God. They're in His hands. This is out of my control. I can only control so many things, but most things in life, they're just beyond me. So I can rest in trust, knowing that my family will be okay. I've done all that I can do. Ask the question, what are you concerned about? What can I do about it? And then just trust and move forward with life.